Today on Primetime Local News' Agriculture Year in Review, I am joined by Eileen Kotowich, who is a farmers market specialist with the Alberta government. So Eileen, my first question is just describe what Alberta farmers markets were like in 2021.
Sure. It was a challenging year, but I'd still say that it was quite positive overall. The restrictions that were in place due to the public health orders required our markets and vendors kind of a change as they did things throughout the season, which isn't unlike what was happening with all of our businesses. So on the positive side, they had done a lot of these things in 2020, so they were able to pivot fairly quickly as changes came about for them. We saw a lot of markets in 2020 who were displaced, their facilities were closed for different reasons. And this way in 2021, a lot of restrictions changed and they were able to go back to their normal locations, which was fantastic because a lot of times it's really hard to kind of retrain your customers and get them coming to a new location. So that was very positive for our people. We saw a lot of continued interest in communities forming new markets, which is really good for our small communities in particular, because now they've got a sales outlet for some of their locals who may never have thought about selling at farmers markets before. And it gives our locals a chance to get more access to local food, local products. But on the flip side, some of our vendors are then attending more markets, and that just puts a continued strain on their operations. So it's a double-edged sword when we've got new markets forming. So it's a little bit tough sometimes.
And I'm wondering, how do farmers markets in 2021 compare to 2020 numbers?
When I look at 2020, even compared to 2019, a lot of our vendor numbers were down because markets were closed and because of the public health restrictions that limited, we had physical distancing in place, so the markets had to limit how many vendors they could have. So this year they were allowed to invite those people back who weren't there last year. So that has helped. Plus we've had more markets coming on stream. So from 2019 to 2020, we had a decline, but I expect that we will see, once I have all the numbers in for 2021, that our vendor numbers have increased for sure. And we have seen an increase overall in the number of markets that were formed. Customer traffic was an interesting one in 2021. People were still supporting markets, absolutely, but when the restrictions lifted, in July in particular, people had more options of things they could do and places they could go. So some of our markets talked about customer traffic being down, and then of course vendors saying that some of their sales were down as a result. So it was better in some ways in 2021 than in 2020, but not so good in others. Again, it's that kind of double-edged sword. Everything was so different from year to year.
And what's continuing to draw customers to these farmers markets?
I think it goes back to the three things that customers have been telling us in our surveys for years, that they come to the markets because of the safety of the food, the desire to support their local producers, the farmers, the processors, the local artisans, and the freshness, quality, and taste. So when you look at it from a food safety perspective, it's not that they don't trust the food that they're buying out of grocery stores, because of course that's safe. It's absolutely safe. It's just different at a farmer's market where you can build a relationship with your vendor. And if you're looking for specific attributes in a product, you can talk to the vendor about that and be assured that you are getting what you are wanting to get. From supporting our local producers, people really do understand that they're supporting small businesses, that these people are their neighbors or they're from the nearby town. And it really brings that sense of community home for them to support these guys. And the pandemic really enhanced that. We had a lot of push to support our local businesses, and the farmers markets certainly benefited from that push. And the freshness, quality, and taste that's out there, you can't deny that the product sold at a farmer's market is fresh. It's either been picked the day before or baked the day before. And knowing that, customers often equate freshness with quality and taste. So it just keeps pushing people to the markets, all three of those attributes.
And looking back on 2021, what stands out the most to you?
I think that the whole sense of community, and markets have always been about that, but I've really seen it since the pandemic hit in 2020. Early 2020 was very challenging for our markets, and we saw some real leaders step up and figure things out and try different things to see how they could adapt and how they could implement the public health orders and still be successful. And that just continued into 2021 of how they're out there to support each other. And everybody was so willing to share their ideas with each other to help each other be successful. Markets never viewed each other as competition throughout this. They looked at the small businesses that each market is supporting and really wanted to help each other be successful. And that has really shone through. The Alberta Farmers Market Association, which is our industry association that supports these markets and the vendors, always provided a forum for these guys to get together and just talk it through. So that sense of community just kept building as time went on. And that is fantastic. I am incredibly proud of what these markets have accomplished and how they've come together, especially in this last year as things, restrictions were taken away, restrictions were put back into place. So things changed so much as they went on. I think markets have such a bright future because of that this is going to continue on as they help each other grow.
And lastly, do you have any hopes for 2022?
I'm hoping that COVID allows us to really open up and be out there even more. I hope that we continue to see new businesses form. And I did see quite a few vendors who started in markets in the last couple of years because of what happened with COVID. Maybe they lost their jobs and they took this as a great opportunity. So I hope we continue to see that, and we continue to see the support from our customers to buy local, support our local producers, help these businesses be successful, because without our customers, we don't have markets. So it's so important to support them. And I think that's going to continue. I think the buy local campaigns, the buy local support is there and will continue into the future.
Absolutely. Eileen, thank you so much for taking the time.
Awesome. Thank you.